How's it going, comic book fans? Welcome back to Comic Drops. Today I've got a special episode for you. We're diving deep into Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees to uncover more than 20 hidden details you might have missed while reading this eerie and atmospheric series. Patrick Horvath is an excellent writer and packed this comic with subtle clues, callbacks, and symbolism that make the story even richer upon closer inspection and rereads. Of course, big spoiler alert for those of you who have not read this series yet. We'll be discussing aspects from every issue here. So, what details did you miss? Let's jump right in and find out. Number 1. Nigel showed up in the first issue. Right from the start, Nigel made his presence known. In the first issue, he's subtly introduced as an inconspicuous supporting character at a dinner at Lola's house and Lola's son. He even makes the comment referring to Sam and Lola's friendship spanning 4 decades. You must know everything about each other at this point, foreshadowing events to come for sure. At the time, you might not have realized the significance of this character, but looking back, his early appearance sets the tone for his lurking, ominous presence throughout the series and redefines some earlier scenes as more menacing in nature. Number 2. Martin the Goat is suffering from dementia. Martin's strange behavior throughout the first issue isn't just quirky, it's the result of his dementia. In the first issue, he attempts to buy a newspaper 3 times and can't find his glasses even though he's wearing them. Of course, this makes him an easy target as Nigel's first victim, who we can assume exploited his disease to commit his first murder in Woodbrook. This condition only adds a layer of tragedy to this character, but also serves as a subtle commentary on how the town's dark secrets weigh on its residents, eroding their minds and spirits. Number 3. Sam's murder weapons. The tools in Sam's hardware store aren't just for fixing things. They're the very same tools she uses on her victims. In the first issue, when Sam is helping Burley finalize his float, Sam uses the same tools she used to kill the duck Daniel Brewer later in the issue. This chilling detail adds a layer of macabre irony to this character, highlighting the duality of her public persona and her hidden murderous tendencies. Number 4. Everything neat, everything tidy. Sam's obsession with keeping everything neat and tidy isn't just a quirk. It's a reflection of her need to control and conceal her own dark deeds. From the neatness of her hardware store to her own home and the way she handles killing her victims, neat and tidy is always foremost on her mind. This mantra underscores her meticulous nature and her efforts to keep her true self hidden beneath the surface. This could also be extended to the town itself, making the horrible crimes committed within Woodbrook even more unnerving and shocking to its residents. Number 5. The Bear in the Woods. The bear we see in the first issue reappears in issue number 5, creating a sense of continuity and foreshadowing. Just as Sam finishes killing Daniel Brewer, a grizzly bear shows up, symbolic of Sam's more animalistic urges to kill. And when Sam is framed by Nigel in issue number 4 and 5, we see the same bear now in the woods after having killed its own prey. Having Sam wander up after this bear's kill and witnessing this bear defend the spoils from its hunt inspires Sam to defend her territory, Woodbrook, from Nigel. The parallels of these 2 scenes and the symbolism involved is just great writing in my opinion. This recurring character serves as a symbol of the wild, untamed nature of Sam, much like we've seen throughout this series. Number 6. The Lose Our Heads comment from the sheriff. In issue number 2, the sheriff casually mentions that he doesn't want anyone losing their heads at the town meeting. This line, seemingly innocent at first, becomes darkly ironic as the story unfolds. In issue number 2, after Nigel confronts Cherry Gherkins on her nightly run, he chops off her fingers and eventually decapitates her, putting her head on a stick in the main hallway of Woodbrook Elementary School with the phrase "head of the class" written in blood on the wall. Did Nigel use this line as inspiration for his next kill? Maybe. Number 7. The coffee shop employee is stalked by Nigel. The coffee shop employee from issue number 2 who is accosted by Cherry the pig for simply doing her job is the same girl Nigel stalks in issue number 6, after taking pictures of her walking into the grocery store. He then also pretends to help her after another shopper bumps into her. This connection adds to the tension of the story and shows how Nigel's predatory behavior has been in the works for some time, making his actions even more disturbing. Additionally, this would probably have been Nigel's next victim if Sam had not gotten to him first. Number 8. American Psycho Homage. The music playing while Sam kills Lola and Nigel is a direct nod to the movie American Psycho, starring Christian Bale and Willem Dafoe, and directed by Mary Harron from the year 2000. In this movie, Christian Bale plays a serial killer named Patrick Bateman, who murders Jared Leto's character Paul Allen in his apartment. While the murder takes place, Bateman plays Huey Lewis in the News. This reference not only adds a layer of dark humor to this comic, but also aligns Sam with other infamous cinematic killers, reinforcing her role as a methodical and cold-blooded murderer in her own right. Number 9. Symbolic Snakes. In issue number 5, we get the surreal scene of Sam's head ripping off her body, only for snakes to spill out of her head. I believe the colors of these snakes are symbolic, representing various aspects of Sam's nature. If we connect the colors to their traditional symbolism relating to the biblical sins, we find this. Yellow represents greed or avarice. Purple represents pride. Green represents envy. Blue, lust, and red, wrath. Of course, I could spend hours describing how these connect to the overall story of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. But maybe I'll save that for a future video. Hint, hint. Number 10. Nigel's Newspapers. If you take a look at the newspapers that appear at the beginning of each issue, they're not there just for show. They're from Nigel's own collection. One of them is even seen hanging in his darkroom in issue number 6, tying his obsession with documenting his surroundings to his darker activities. Also, the newspapers become more tattered and bloody as the series progresses, mirroring the mental state of Nigel and the town's unrest, culminating in the final newspaper simply being torn to shreds. Number 11. Dog Day Afternoon, now playing. Dog Day Afternoon is playing in the theater in Woodbrook, a movie that came out in 1975. This choice of film isn't random, as though it would seem, as the story is set in 1986. More on that in a bit. This film, starring Al Pacino and directed by Sidney Lumet, about a botched bank robbery, mirrors the themes of desperation and alienation, the American dream gone wrong, authority and rebellion, and blurs the lines between right and wrong, much like the events unfolding in Woodbrook. If you haven't seen Dog Day Afternoon, it's really a classic movie, and I'd be interested if you see any other parallels between it and this comic series. Number 12. Burley Brown Bear Paint and Hardware. The Burley Brown Bear Paint and Hardware store was founded in 1956 by Sam's parents and has been a fixture in Woodbrook for decades. This establishment's long history parallels the deep-rooted secrets and traditions of the town, especially considering that Sam now owns the store and uses tools from there to murder her victims. Additionally, Sam's source of income is also jeopardized by Nigel's attempt to frame her by killing Charly in her own hardware store and planting the pieces of her own victims there for police to find. Number 13. Nigels Axe. Nigel purchased the axe he used to kill Cherry from Sam's hardware store. The fact that he bought his murder weapon from the very place ran by another killer adds a dark layer of irony and underscores the twisted connections between these characters. You can see the axe window display here in issue number 4 stating, "Axe us about our great deals." Number 14. Daniel Brewer. The duck that was murdered by Sam in issue number 1 was named Daniel Brewer. He was 21 and was 5 feet 6 inches tall. We finally get to learn these details on the cover of issue number 5 on a missing persons poster. This specific detail, while seemingly trivial, adds to the eerie realism of the series, making the deaths feel more personal and impactful. It's also a callback to the funeral of Martin the Goat from earlier in the series, where Sam thinks to herself what other families have went through because of her own actions. This poster shows us just another example of how Sam's actions also have consequences, even though we might not see them resonate in the narrative at the moment. Number 15, Unidentified Victims. If you look at the newspaper clipping inside issue number 5, you'll see that the police have determined that Sam has killed Martin, Cherry, and Charly, along with several other victims, including a dog, a deer, a rabbit, a bull, and believe it or not, what looks like Winnie the Pooh. However, the identities of these victims are never identified in the newspaper or the series as a whole. This omission adds to the sense of mystery and the idea that there are many more untold stories and hidden horrors in Woodbrook. I also think it's hilarious that it's possible that Sam might have murdered Winnie the Pooh, one of the most innocent bears in modern media. Number 16, Sam's SUV. Throughout the series, we see Sam driving a light blue and white SUV. For those of you that are car enthusiasts like myself, I instantly recognize this SUV. Sam drives a first-generation 1970s model Ford Bronco. This classic vehicle, often associated with rugged independence, also reflects Sam's tough, no-nonsense persona and her ability to navigate the wild both literally and figuratively. Number 17, grizzly bears and deer. Here's an interesting fact about grizzly bears. They actually do hunt deer, as depicted in this series, and will bury the carcass to revisit it later, much like Sam's killings beneath the trees. This parallel between nature and Sam's actions highlights the primal, animalistic instincts driving her murderous behavior. Wild bears will also defend their kills, just like the bear did in issue number 5 with Sam watching. The parallels here are amazing to consider and prove the intentional and interconnected nature of this narrative. Number 18, Nigel shot Charly. At the beginning of issue number 6, we see several of Nigel's candid photos of his victims, including Martin, Cherry, and Charly. Based on the photo of Charly, Nigel shot him before decapitating him and running his head through a buzzsaw. This meticulous approach to murder shows Nigel's methodical nature and his obsession with capturing his deeds, both in reality and through the lens of his camera. Number 19, what year is it? Throughout this entire series, I wondered when these events took place. I kept examining the newspapers at the beginning of each issue, but could never make out the date. Based on the Ford Bronco and Dog Day Afternoon, it seemed it had to be after 1975. However, in the final issue, we finally got our answer. On a newspaper that Chip, the owner of the newsstand, is holding, we see the date, October 9th, 1986. This date not only grounds the story in a specific time period, but also serves as a subtle marker of the passage of time and the culmination of events in the series. Number 20, Lola's Hand. In the final issue scene where Sam lures Nigel to her house, Lola's hand and the book she's holding are propped up with a ruler taped to her arm. This tricks Nigel upon returning to Sam's house that his mother is still alive. This clever ruse by Sam adds another layer to her cunning nature, showing how she's always one step ahead of her adversaries. Number 21, who is Franklin Warner? For our last entry on this list, let's go back to Martin the Goat's funeral. Franklin Warner's tombstone is seen as everyone is gathering at the gravesite. But who is Franklin Warner? This is a mystery that adds to the depth of Woodbrook's history, as this character's identity remains unexplained, leaving readers to speculate about his connection to the town's past. If any of you know who this is, of course, let me know in the comments below. And there you have it, 20 plus hidden details from beneath the trees where nobody sees that you might have missed. This series is rich with subtle nods, symbolism, and eerie connections that make each subsequent read a rewarding experience. If you found any other details or have your own theories that I might have missed, drop them in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe to Comic Drops, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into your favorite comics. I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.